it actually can decrease your maximal heart rate. It affects every part of your body because it is affecting your nervous system. Okay, and again, this is from research. So what causes it? What can cause this spinal decay? Well, repetitive strain or micro traumas, sedentary lifestyle. Let me back up just for a second on that top one. Micro trauma. I like to use an analogy called titration. And if you've ever been to chemistry class, there's a process that you do called titration. And just to sum it up, you've got a beaker with a chemical in it, and then you have another beaker or a dropper that's above it with a different chemical. And we had to, in chemistry class, we had to open up the little stopcock on it and let it drip in. So you've got one chemical mixing with another, and then you had to count the number of drops before something happened. And so it made drop, drop, drop. Nothing happens. Drop, drop, drop. Nothing happens. And what you're looking for is a change, color maybe, or odor, or it may even explode. But let's just say that it took 1,000 drops, okay, and then all of a sudden, boom, it went from clear to red, and you got this really pungent odor. So let me ask you this: was it the 1,000th drop, or was it all 1,000 that made the? It was a cumulative drops over time. That's what microtrauma is. Cumulative stresses over time that brought you to where you are. That is what leads to this. If the joint is mobilized for a few weeks in the position of comfort, contractures or freezing or stuck will develop in the surrounding soft tissues. And as a consequence, normal range of joint motion will be impossible. You can't get normal range of motion after a period of time. And that helps to, and that's what causes decay. And the fact of the matter is that we all are sitting. Okay? Is there anybody here who has not immobilized their spinal joints for, just even a few weeks from your job, for example? Or think about your kids. If you have kids who sit at these horrible desks in school for 6 hours, it adds up. So then the question is, well, who doesn't have subluxations? And it wasn't that long ago that I would say, well, not everybody can have subluxation. I am convinced in our modern society now, I don't know anybody who's not subluxated, frankly. And people will come in and they'll say, Doc, come on, my kid can't be so. I mean, he's only a few years old. We find him. We find him. We have no genetic defense against sitting. We were never meant to sit. If you look at our ancestors, they were always on the move. The hunter-gatherer types, right? I mean, they had to do everything where they sat. Okay? And you know what we find when we dig up those skeletal remains? We don't see the same thing. I mean, these people didn't die of the same kind of conditions that we do nowadays. They didn't have diabetes. Okay? They didn't die of the same things. So that there's something going on here. So, with that said, proper joint motion of your spine is actually, it's a genetic requirement. Just like nutrients that you put in your body is a genetic requirement. You've got to move. You've got to keep your body moving in order to have healthy muscles, bones, ligaments, all that stuff. And without regular full spinal joint motion, it quickly begins to decay. So, one of the questions that I know you're going to ask is, well, if I'm exercising, aren't I getting enough motion through there? Well, the answer is that's fantastic. You need to do that. That's one of the ways that keeps your spine from decaying. But what about the areas that actually develop the subluxation that are stuck, that you can't move with exercise? That's when you need a push. Okay. Average person sits over 32 years in their life. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. It's unbelievable. Think about it. When I pastored this last weekend, we were talking about kids, and he said that he just read a statistic that average American kid right now spends 31 hours a week online. I don't know anybody that stands up while they're online. So they're sitting. These are our kids. Okay? And now most people are living very sedentary lives. Okay? And that is why, what I said, vertebral subluxation is pandemic in industrial society. Pandemic means everywhere. Everybody's got it. Just like tooth decay. So, famous chiropractor said this: sitting to your spine what sugar is to your teeth. And it's a good visual, because we all know what sugar, or if you drink pop, what that'll do to your teeth, it'll rot it. The same thing is true of sitting. Here we have you sitting for 2 hours. Okay, so along with sitting, and this is pretty critical, comes what we call forward head posture, okay? Anybody ever seen somebody who had their head that looked like this? How about older people? We see that a lot. We see older people that are kind of like this. You know what? They started out like this, and then went like this, and then went like this. Now they've lost the normal curve in their spine. Forward head posture is devastating. It's clear this posture is caused from sitting. Okay, you're sitting at a computer, or you're sitting doing whatever, reading whatever, and you come forward, and your head just by nature has to come forward. And it happens prior to symptoms. Okay, you start to lose the curve and get forward head posture before you ever have any pain at all. This is from a study. Hyperkyphotic, that means forward head posture, was associated with an increased mortality. That means death. Increased death due to atherosclerosis, that's of the arteries, and possibly pulmonary causes, so lung. So forward head posture is more than just a neck issue. It is a cardiovascular system issue. It is, you name where the spinal cord goes, that's an issue. So if you know somebody who has forward head posture, or maybe you do, absolutely critical to be checked by a chiropractor, period. So, remember earlier we talked about nociception. I said N-word, negative. Okay, I want to just talk about how that works. So, evidence indicates that this altered nerve energy flow, okay, doesn't just affect the spinal tissues, but brain function in the regions that regulate pain. You can see that. Stress, immunity. It can affect your immune system. It can affect your ability to think clearly. We have children who have attention deficit problems. And a big part of it is because they've been sitting so much and they've lost curve in their neck and their forward head, and they've got subluxation, and it literally is shutting off the ability for their brain to think clearly and to focus. Concentration, emotions, organ function, sleep, digestion, overall hormonal and organ function. It goes on and on and on and on. So when you have a subluxation, that's one of the things that happens. Nociception. Okay, how does that work? I just quickly want to cover this. When you have a subluxation and you activate those nociceptors, a message is sent to your brain. The message is supposed to go to your cerebellum. That's a big, as Dr. Aaron likes to say, that big cauliflower-looking thing in the back of your brain, okay? So the cerebellum is in the back. The message is supposed to go to the cerebellum. The cerebellum then relays that message to other parts of the brain. Okay, when you have and to those other parts of the brain for thinking and for emotion and hormone control. But what happens is when you have a subluxation, that signal bypasses the cerebellum. It goes past it and goes up to the stress and anxiety centers of the brain, and it causes you to release stress hormones. Okay, they're called adrenaline and cortisol. So what happens is when the stress hormones are released, it affects your overall cell function in your body. I'll show you here. What does that do?